This is my masterclass that I'll be showing you. Today, what I want to look at is I teach a course with Toolroom, and it's called Creativity Unlocked. Now, some of you have actually either done the course or currently on the course. Where's Marcus? There he is. There's Marcus. Marcus is currently doing the course. I apologize to Marcus because I'm going to be giving him a sort of teaser of one of the lessons that we're doing in the course. So he's going to see it up front. So you're going to see this twice, Marcus. How lucky are you? Now, for a little bit of information about what Creativity Unlocked is. It's basically a 16-week course, and what we teach throughout that course is, of course, it's how to be creative, but we teach it across 4 genres of house music, 4 subgenres. Those subgenres are house, tech house, progressive house or progressive tech house, and what we like to call, there's a style of music in Toolroom on the Tracks label, and it's sort of like, it's kind of tech house, but it's urging towards the tougher end of tech house. It's going more towards techno. It's not techno, I'm not saying it is, but it's going that way. More techno than tech house. It's sort of in between. It's that real tough driving sound. It's also really quite a simple sound. There's not a lot going on, you know, and you'll see in this track when I break it down, there's very few parts, okay? And that's the simplicity of this track. Now, what we do in the course is we use reference tracks, and we use 4 different types of reference tracks that we refer to. And I show people within the class how to build or how to create the sounds within these reference tracks. And then it's up to the students to go away and make their own version, sort of based on this technique, okay? So we break it down we start with drums, then we work on bass, then we go to vocals, then we go to the melodic section. Now, melodics are, within this sort of genre that we're looking at, sort of stabs, the kind of musical elements, anything with harmonic content, okay? So, and then we move on to arrangement and, and at the end of the 16-week course, the students play their track that they've built through this course to every other student. There's like 20 students there, and to Matt, it's either Matt or somebody else at the Toolroom A&R team, will listen to these final tracks, give them A&R. Alex has been through this. He knows how nerve-wracking it is, I'm sure. It must be kind of scary to play your tracks in front of, you know, the Toolroom A&R team, etc. So yeah, and that's the process of Creativity Unlocked. And I personally love to see what makes me really proud is like at the end when everybody's got their final tracks and they play it to everybody else. I honestly feel like a proud father. It's like, oh, you know, it almost gets me emotional. I could cry at times because to see their sort of progression from day one all the way to the end, presenting these what are just amazing records is just, you know, I can't think of any other word but proud, you know. So that's the course in a nutshell. And Creativity Unlocked it runs like twice a year. Maybe we look at doing it 3 times, but it's twice a year. So this particular lesson is the lesson that Marcus is going to be getting next week. Now, and this is how to create sort of stabs and the melodic side of it. We've actually got the melodics here. It's how to create sort of a build-up and a drop and a moment. And I want to show you some techniques that I might use to create this intensity, this sort of hands in the air moment on the dance floor where everything just gets intense and boom, then you're into what we call the drop. I'm old school. I don't like the word drop. I think drop is, but anyway, when it hits, the hit. But what I want to show you here are some techniques of being able to do this without adding anything, right? What we've got, you can see there's very few parts here. The blue is the melodic content. That's it. The yellow is the vocal content. Now, and the rest of it is just drums. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One's muted. 8 tracks of drums. We've got a bass line, which is in brown. Contentious color, I know. Brown for bass. And then the blue one is the melodic content. So all we've got is one part, okay? I like to be able to squeeze as much as I possibly can out of this one part, right? What can I do with this one thing to make this one thing just explode, go crazy, right? And I'm always thinking that way, rather than in a build-up, rather than adding things like effects, risers, whooshes, crashes, all of the sort of standard stuff you might put in there. What else can we do? Because personally, I think that's a cliche. Anybody can go to a sample pack, add, a riser, and it works, it's great, but that's too easy, right? Let's think outside of the box. What can we do? Now, I'm moving ahead. This track is based on a reference track. The reference track is by a guy called Ango Tamarind. You may have heard this one. It's just a very tough driving track. That's the reference. Now, it's really important when you're making music, I believe, to have some kind of reference track in your project. I've got it up there at the top there. Let's take a listen to this, actually. Let's see if it comes through. Tell me if it... All right, so this is another reference track. This is one of the students, actually. Let me just take a look at it. There it is. Have we got the drop section? Let's have a look. Yeah, I'll play this section to the drop. This was one of the guys that came through Creativity Unlocked, and this was his final project that he handed in at the end. And this sort of typifies the sound. Everybody hear that? Okay. So that kind of sound. Driving, not really much going on, quite thick, that sort of thing. Now, this reference track was actually, we do a section in the course where we teach you how to create your own vocals, right? Writing your own vocals, recording your own vocals, right? He went away and did just that. And I've done one here. This is one I did maybe last year. So my vocal sounds a bit like this. So it's very, very simple. We've got 2 lines. I'm just going to solo it if it comes through. Is it playing?
Come on, take my hand.
Come on, take my hand.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Let's go to Wonderland. Right. That's the 2 lines. That's all I'm using. Now, in terms of recording this, it's quite easy. You can just, use a microphone, whatever, but it's pitch shifted down, making it sound a lot deeper, right? Okay, so quite a simple vocal. Now, in terms of the bass line, I want to show you the bass line. This is a really interesting bass because, as you can see on the screen, it's chic, right? It's taken from Everybody Dance. In fact, let me play the track. Let me play the bit of the track. It's very simple. I've got a simple 8-bar break and a drop, right? I'll play it, and then we can break it down into its constituent parts. go. We get the idea. Quite straightforward. But what we've got is the bass. I want to show you the bass because it's a really interesting technique, and I think it's something you guys can take a lot from, right? So the bass line is this. If I play it on its own, now I think Alex, you've seen this already, right? Yes. Okay. So that's the bass. It's actually if I take all the filters and processing off it, this is what it sounds like. So you play that. Yeah, so that's the bass line. Literally taken straight from a Chic record, and we've then filtered it down. I've used a lot of filtering. Start with this filter here. You get this, and then we add another filter there for the automation. So we're taking out the bass and the breakdown, adding some saturation. Easy, bit of EQ just to kind of boost the bass area there, and then cut the little 200 hertz area there, and then the all-important sidechain. Make sure we get that kick off of that. That's the sidechain there. Yeah, and it sounds, in the track, you would not know it's Chic, especially when you loop it like this. So that's a cool trick. And you can literally take a bass line from any record, anything. You know this, right? That's part of the thing you have to do. You have to go away, and in the course, you have to like literally sample bass lines from anywhere. You can take anything from anywhere. It's awesome. And you can mix it into something like a track like this is really tough. The juxtaposition of a funky bass line with a tough track works really well. Okay. Now, what we've got here, the next thing I'm going to focus on is the stab. The stab sound is this. So let's take a look at what the sample is and why did I use that sound, okay? So if I go over to this area here, samples, stabs, okay, so stab favorites. Now, I've got a collection of stabs. These are sample stabs, right? Now, in the lesson, we actually show how to make these stabs. It's sound design, how to make them using synthesizers. But we also use samples as well. So these kind of things. That's a good one. And what I like to do is listen through these stabs and go, okay, what can I imagine working in this track? What would be something that incessantly playing like that would sound interesting? And instantly I'm picking up on things like that. That would be a good sound. Maybe not. But the deeper sort of urgent sounds. But for this one, what I wanted was something a little softer, something that didn't stab so hard. And so I was flicking through. And we go to stab cold. Let's keep going. This one. Now, you wouldn't imagine this to work. That one. Why would I choose that? Well, it's because, if you look here, it actually contains a slow attack, right? It's not a stab like these ones. Not hard stab, it's got this slow... It comes in, it takes a little time for it to hit. So it makes it a little softer, more organic sounding, kind of interesting. Okay, so that's the sound choice, first off. That works really well. I'm not concerned about the key of this because I'm just using my ear. What works, you might have to transpose this a little bit for it to work within the track, within your bass line. But generally, I'm not really worried too much, just throw it in. Alex is the classically trained, he can do all this stuff. Whereas I'm not at all. So I'm just a sonic guy. All right. Now, what we've got here is the build-up going on. Starts like that, and it gets... So how do we do that? Okay, I'm going to show you some techniques of how to create that kind of intensity. We're not just using one plugin. It's not like an Endless Smile or a Toolroom Infinity plugin. This is a lot. You can see the automation lanes there. There's a lot going on, right? So I'm going to break it down. Let's recreate that. Let's start there with this stab. So I'm going to drag the stab. I'm going to duplicate. In fact, no, I'm going to start with a new one here. Let's erase all of this stuff. Let's get my sound. All right, drag it down here. Got to love Ableton for this. Okay, let's recreate. I'm going to do it over here. Let's make a little part. Okay, there. So the pattern. Let's make the pattern. Okay. If I create this, give Command M. There we go. So C3 is the note that will trigger the sample. If you play it anywhere else, it will transpose. So stick there. Let's put our grid to 1/16. Okay. I'm just going to use a 1-bar pattern. Dit, 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 dit. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. It's loopy. It's rolling. That's what we want. Incessant kind of. Right. So let's create that. Let's duplicate it. Now let's think about where we're going to put it. These patterns it's a combination of on-beat, off-beat, and then what you call syncopation. Syncopation this is the on-beat. That's the off-beat, where the hat is. The kick is always on 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So that's on the kick. That's off the kick. Now these two here are the syncopation notes, I think. So like this would be like a push syncopation into the next block there. And that is the sort of more urgent syncopation. But this is what creates a groove. So let's create this pattern. So the first two would be this. Yeah, maybe the third one would be on. So these are all on the 8th notes. But then this one goes across. Let me put the metronome on so we can hear it. If that's on, it's not quite right. So we want to do the syncopation there. Where's the next one? There we go. If it's there, it might be too quick. You could have it there. You could move it around how you want to. Or there. The next syncopation is there. And then would be probably one there on the offbeat. Alternative patterns you could look at. You could do more syncopation. Just moving that around gives you a different sort of feel to it. They could all be syncopated, which they pretty much mostly are. Maybe move that one. Different grooves, right? But really simple, just moving one note around can give you a totally different pattern and a different feel. So let's put that back to where it was, like that. Cool. So that's my pattern in this instance, okay? Now, what I like to use as well is loops. You can see how this is looped here. So that means then, in the arrangement, I can just drag this out to there like that. And then I can copy it over to there like that as well, okay? So that's my part, all right? So the next thing I want to look at is the actual, how the sound design is made. So here we go. This, I want to work on the sound a little bit. Maybe start it a little, this is the start point of the sample, so maybe start it a little later. So it's got a slight more attack, it's a bit more, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all of the lanes of automation here, that's right, that's it. That's all that, yeah, great. And what we're going to do is we're going to utilize the loop function, okay? This loop here, if we add the loop, we take off the snap, and then we automate the length of the loop. So we can get it to go like this. Now, if I open the release, it will play for longer. Like that. So you can get this sort of indefinite sound. If I put it onto 1 there like that, then it won't overlap on top of each other and create this big mess. So it's like, and if I bring the loop length down, that is what's known as granular synthesis, right? Granular synthesis is when you take a very short loop of something and you can create a tone out of it. So you can play this as on the keyboard as a melody if you want to. In fact, I can demonstrate it now. It can be played. That's that, right? And that is granular synthesis. So, which is really interesting because we can manipulate this within our arrangement to create a tone in places, which is very interesting. So that's our loop length. Now I want to get a point of my loop that's not clicking, so maybe there, where it crosses over 0. That's it. Right, cool. So I'm going to literally automate that. So there's going to be lots of automation lanes within this project, okay? So what you could do is create a macro, which is basically you can map lots of different parameters to one knob. So you turn one knob and it can do hundreds of things. But for the point of this demonstration, I want to show you all of the different automation lanes. So you can see it on screen. You can see what I'm doing, and then you can go away and try this out yourself if this is what you want to try. All right? So the first thing I want to automate is the loop on and off, okay? Because most of the time, I want the sound without the loop. So the sound is going to end up like this. So I want to remember all of these settings, right? So the loop can be off, the release is there. Okay. So the first thing we're going to automate is the loop on off, okay? It comes up as a lane here, and then I'm going to add it to the arrangement. So that's my loop on off, right? So when I open up this part, you can see what's automated. So the first thing is loop. So I'm going to turn it off here. All right, that's off. Now, what I also want to do as well, I want to stop the sample. When I say, let's go to Wonderland, there, I want a gap. This is like left, so I'm going to stop everything there. It all builds up to that point. Let me just unmute it.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Then it's in. Okay, so everything's going to that point. Excuse me. So that's the first thing we're going to automate. The second thing we're going to automate on this is the release, right? Okay, so if I click on that, it comes up there. Let's add it as a lane so I can see it. The release is going to start at its normal place, and it's going to get to the point where it's fully open there like that. And it's going to go back to normal at that point, back to where we started there, okay? So let's bring that down. I think it's around about 4. Yeah, there we go, like that. So that's back to its normal place. And what this is going to do is it's going to build up, and it's going to stay open, and it'll be just continually playing until I bring it down, until that point. That's my next one. And I might even just do a curve there like that, okay? So that's going to get more and more. Okay? Can't hear anything yet. The next thing we want to automate is the loop length, like this, right? So I'm going to add that to there, add it as an automation lane. This loop length is going to come from starting there, normal, and then it's going to come all the way down, so like this, okay? And then it's going to go there, and it's going to come down, like maybe go there. Now, as it comes down, it gets faster and faster and shorter to that point where it goes me like that, right? So at the me point, it's going to go back up and unloop. So let's take a listen to that. Maybe too much. Okay, That's the sort of thing we're looking at. But this is going to take a little bit of refining. So if I don't want it to go too beep for too long. Maybe just a bit. Maybe a little bit too much going to the full thing. So maybe pull that down a bit. That's cool. I like that a lot. That's kind of, and we don't forget, hold Alt on a Mac, and you can set the curves, so you can do a more of a gentle curve, so it slows down slower like that. Oh, you've got to play it from here. There, like that. Okay. Now there's a bit of a click, and I think you can create these fades as well. These fade, if you put a fade on, that may help with the clicking. Not really, but it's fine. You won't hear it so much in the mix. So we start like this. It carries on like that. Get more and more intense. I think I like the squeak. Let's go there. Why not? It sounds a little crazy. Let's do it. Okay, so that's that. Now, all right, there is more. I hope you've got plenty of time when you come to do this. Right. The next one we're going to look at, we're going to utilize the filter on the simpler here. And this is a really, really good filter. It basically mimics the auto filter, which is over here somewhere, is it? Anyway, the auto filter has different filter types. You've got one called OSR from an old synthesizer called an Oscar. This is MS2. This is modeled on something else, and this is something I don't know either. But we're going to use the MS2. And it's the MS20 filter from an old Korg synthesizer, which is brilliant. So let's use that. When we use the MS2, we get the drive option. So we can drive it a little bit, get even a little bit more intensity. And we get a slight different sound to the filter. It's modeled. So let's find our starting point. We want the sound to start kind of muted and then grow and open, right? So let's find where it starts there. Now we're going to add this filter frequency to the automation lane. That's a good start. Maybe lower. About there. Starts there. All right. And then builds up to full there. So I'm going to do that. Did you see what I did there as well? This is a really interesting thing that some people don't know about. If you swipe across in Ableton, like this, filter frequency, let me do it here. Swipe across, and then you hover, you get the blue line. And then that enables you to move the blue line. You can move it up, however, that, the amount there. So if I've got that, for instance, I can just swipe across and do that. So it's sort of, it's a very accurate way of creating automation, okay? So I've swiped up there. That's my start point, is there, and it builds up to there. It'll stay open there, okay? And we could even maybe filter it back down a little bit there, and then, boom, you're back into normal there, like that. And we could do potentially a little curve, so it slowly opens. So it's like this. Starts there, builds up. You can hear the loop starting. And then we're going to stop there, and then it's back. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about earlier. With this one sound, we've been able to create a far more interesting sound, right? Something that we can manipulate and we can do. You can go to town with this, spend real time on it, you know, get it to be perfect, get it to just. What we want to create is a moment in the dance floor where you're just like, oh, I can't take anymore. Oh, it's like that. Oh, please, you know, it's one of those moments. It's like almost makes you want to cry kind of moment, right? And yeah, big but just using one sound. We're not adding, we're just using that one thing, manipulating, right? So we got that. That's our frequency stab. And the next thing we want to look at, I promise there's not too many more to this, is this sustain here. Because if you notice, the sound gets a little messy as it starts to loop. Round about there, you can hear the loop kind of going out of time. We can mask that a little bit with this sustain here. So bring the sustain down. Gets less noticeable. That's it. That's it. So I'm going to automate. That's my final automation lane for this. For this simpler, we are going to start there at that point, and we're going to build up. So it's at the end there. There's my sustain. It goes all the way up to full up there, and I'm going to create a curve. So it stays pretty much at that point until here, when it wants to be fully open. All right, cool. So that's that. All right, we've not finished yet. We're going to continue. Sorry. This is the tweaker's paradise. So we've got sustain. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is creating chains in Ableton. So how many people use Ableton here, by the way? Yeah? Oh, most of you, this guy now. What do you use? FL Studio. It's supposed to be amazing, right?
Well, I like the sampler and the simpler don't really exist that way, so
Come to Ableton. Ableton's amazing because you've got things like this, and you know, but every DAW has its strengths and weaknesses, you know. But in Ableton, what you can create, and I'm going to erase these things here. What we can create are chains, effects chains, which is really, really cool. And I don't know other DAWs that you can do this. Maybe Bitwig, potentially. And a chain is a bunch of effects that exist. And they can either be in series or in parallel or all together or separate. It's like a chain, and it can be hundreds of effects, right? So let's start with reverb. What we're going to create is our very own like Toolroom Infinite plugin or Endless Smile type of thing. We're going to create one of those. So we can use reverb to start with. Reverb. Just the normal Ableton reverb is fine. And what we're going to create is like a wash. So if I just play this part again, so with the reverb on here like this and the decay, you get that cloud of sound, right? But what we want to do is I want to add it to the signal, okay? So normally you would use a return effect or a send effect, and you would send it. You would use this here and go, right, I want to add reverb, so I do that. Start at 0, I want more and more reverb, and then no reverb, right? There's a better way to do it, I believe, using these chain effects, right? So this reverb is there. You must have this at 100% wet. And what we do, if you right-click underneath, you create, I'm going to call this dry. So this is the dry signal. So now I can balance between dry, and I can automate the reverb. And I can also stop the reverb whenever I want to, just by moving this volume up and down. It's like a dry-wet volume control. Well, it's a wet control. All right? And then the next one we could try is delay. All right? Let's drag delay here. Boom, delay. Now, when you're using these chain effects, you've got to have this at 100% wet, dry wet, like that. And then, this is the delay. Let's get the timing of the delay right. Should it be a ping pong? Should it be eighth notes? That's kind of cool. Now, if we, I'll do it here. It's that kind of delay, all right? Now, you can use your filter on your delay just to filter out some of the low end and some of the high end there, like so. All right, that's that. What Ableton's got as well is the ability to modulate parameters using Max for Live. Max for Live, and we have what you call an LFO. So I can use this LFO over here. All right. What I want to do is I want this parameter to automatically move around like this. Okay. I want it to do that. But there is no way of doing it in the plugin, right? So how do I get it to do that? All right. I want to then use an LFO. So if I press this button here, map to that, look what happens. It's moving around on its own accord. Okay. And if I get it slower, let's take a listen to what it's doing. Listen to the pitch of the delay. The pitch is moving. It's a bit seasick, drunk. All right. We can map another one to map onto this side, but with this time we'll have it opposite. So that's that, and these two are moving in opposite directions. So we're getting this subtle kind of seasick movement of it's like that. That could, of course, be how fast it goes is the rate. And then at that point there, we can literally stop it by just automating this level. So let's add it. There's another chain. So there, when I say let's go to Wonderland, is going to be automated. We're going to turn it down. There, like that. So it's going to be going up to maximum craziness. Maybe not as loud as that. Let's go to like 0. There we go. Starts from nothing. Gets more and more intense to here. And stops. All right. Next thing we want to automate is the reverb level as well, like that. Okay. Now these should really be mapped to a macro, so you can just move one knob and both of these change. But I don't like to use macros. I like to see what I'm doing. I like it to be in front of me, like that. So this reverb level, let's map this. So that's going to come up to all the way up to this point. You can copy automation. If I want to, you can swipe over here like that. Command C for copy, Command V for boom. And that's on a different thing. That's going to automate the level of the reverb. I'm going to add that. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, all right. We could do more. All right. So then that's the reverb. So it's getting a little intense, you know. This will need to be played with a little bit to make it sound right. Okay, cool. So you can understand you can't do this with a single sample. It's a single sample that is it's a set length. It's maybe 0.2 of a second. That's it. For us to be able to do this, we have to use the looping functionality within Simpler, right? To be able to get that intensity of the sound, okay? And that's what's really good about this technique. This rack, this chain here, I'm going to call DR wash. All right, that's that. And that can be then saved. You can save this for later use. Look, there it is. And you can just drag that into any track that you want to. All right, so that's our first sort of section. That's our first thing that we can do. I won't play the whole thing, but it's like this.
Let's go to Wonderland.
So that's the sort of idea that we're going for there. Now, you could hear that the sound it sounds like it's on top of the track, right? We can use a little bit of sidechain to make it pump a little bit more with the track, okay? And for that, I would use the Ableton 8 compressor. You can download it, just Google Ableton 8, get the compressor. It doesn't click. The other compressors click. So let's go to user library, Ableton 8 compressor. Okay, Live 8. I'm just going to set this up like that. Put that there. We're going to set this to sidechain to the kick drum. Okay, kick MIDI there. Let's play this. And I want it to be on the stab. I want a fast attack. I want it to work instantly. I want a 10:1 or infinite ratio. And the release, I want to be set at 30 milliseconds. I also want to use the EQ because I want it to not react to the kick. I want it to react to the click of the kick, right? So it's a very short sidechain, right? And then we use the threshold to get the amount. Right, let's adjust this a little bit more. That's it. Pick MIDI, okay, that's it. I got the attack it the wrong way, so there you go. Too much, so I still want that first note. Without. With. Let's try it in the track. With and without. Without. With. It pumps a little bit more, sort of sits in the groove a little bit. And that trick can be used on vocals, on anything. Anything that sounds like it's detached from the track, it sounds like it's just stuck on top. Use a sidechain, and it will just pump it in the track, and everything will groove together, right? Okay? So that's that. That's stage one, right? Now, let's take a look at the stage two. Stage two of creating some intensity is to look at our drums. For those of you that have seen this, Marcus, Alex, you know that we like to send our drums, all of our drums, through a drum bus here, and it's a separate channel that's got this. So you can see there's some automation on it already. Okay, and this, if I solo it, this is where all the drums come through. Okay, all my drums are there, which enables me to do things like filtering. EQing. It all can be EQ'd. It's a bit like a group, okay, but it's an old school. I'm old school. And I like to have a channel. It's like a sort of a separate channel that, you know, I can manipulate. And then on this group as well, we can use the same effects. So I've got here the chain, the reverb chain. Look at this. So what I'm doing is I'm automating on here, just to check it out, the filter. I'm filtering the drums down. You can see that there. The drums will sort of come down, okay, using the cutoff frequency there. Very simple. And then I'm adding reverb to it with this wet volume here, like that. And you can see the reverb chain volume there, okay? So the reverb gets added. As it filters down, reverb gets added. And it sounds a bit like this. So from here, filtering down, easy. Reverb's coming in, like that. And then the decay, the reverb decay gets longer and longer. It's more and more washy, like this. As the reverb, it will tail off, and then there's no reverb on the drop. So that's the automation. Quite simple, straightforward. We can take it further. We can use a delay. All right, in this chain. So delay chain. Here we go. 100% wet, remember. Let's set the timing of this. That's pretty cool. Does it want to be ping pong? Cool. We also want to use the filter. Take out the low and the high. Awesome. Let's automate it. Let's add it as a chain there. There's a level all the way up to our spot. Don't want it straight away, so we can automate it up over a period of time. Like that. Cool. Now, what if we want that reverb to kind of stay for longer? In the reverb of Ableton here, you've got a freeze functionality. You can press this. Let's see if I can get it to work. It works sometimes, and it should, in theory, freeze the reverb. Let's try it. Cool. So it makes the decay. And then we need to get the frequency. That's it, like that. That's it, that's it. So I don't want to filter it down again. Off, right? So that's really cool for just creating those moments again, you know, endless smile type of thing without using endless smile, because frankly it's horrible. I don't like it. It's the way when you use endless smile that when you do it, it loses the dry signal. It just gets all very wet. I want to leave the dry signal in, and that's the possibility to do that here with this dry. All right. So that's our drums. Let's take a listen in the track. I won't play the whole thing, but that's from this point. All right, so you heard that I need to bring this freeze off at that point there, so it stops.
And let's go to Wonderland.
So let's play it from here.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Cool. All right, we've got that annoying scream going on down here at the moment. That's part of the drop, so that keeps playing. All right, so that's our second thing we can do. And you can also see here as well that this kick drum in white here is basically, I've automated a filter. So I just turn it on and off at this point, and it takes all the bass out of the kick drum, right? And that's what this automation lane is here. Simple, really simple. Just taking the bass out and then bringing it back in. And what we're creating is contrast. You want a section where that's very different to the next, which then makes the next section sound even more, even though it's doing the same thing as it's done for most of the track, it just sounds fresh because you've had this bit that goes crazy and wet and it's horrible, and then bang, when you come back, it's driving and it's a moment. You create a moment on the dance floor, okay? And that's what we're doing here, contrast. the dry and wet sections like that. So, of course, this might not be everybody's taste. I'm over-exaggerating this for the demonstration. I'm just showing you how far you can push it. You might not like this kind of thing. You might want to keep it a bit more subtle and cool and a little less obvious. That's fine. Just do less of it. But this is the theory of how it works, okay? And then I want to show you the next piece here, which is this loop. Let's take a look at this. I've got the word, if I solo these two, I've got the word.
To take my hand, 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 to take my hand.
Yeah. Again, it's the looping. We're going to utilize the looping functionality. And this is such a cool effect because you can take single words like the word hand and loop it and create another layer of craziness. All right. So let me duplicate this. Okay. So, actually create a new track. I'll show you how I do it. Ableton's amazing. You've got a MIDI part. You drag the word "take my hand," which is that.
Come on, take my hand.
We drag that onto here. It creates a MIDI simpler, like so. You've got these 2 points here where you can actually go in and find the word hand. Okay, you can actually see it. That's take my hand, the 3 words. So I'm going to loop around that bit there, like so. And then we go into Ableton here, Command M. We're going to C3 will play the sample like this. Or it should do in theory if I unsoloed it like this. C3 will play the sample. Okay, so let's create a long part like so. All right, that wants to go from there to there. So that will then play, and if we put the loop functionality on, so I'll get rid of that one. Now I need to get in and isolate the word hand. So it's looping. Now, of course, we can now automate the length.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Can we get the word hand to keep playing? Let's try the release longer.
Let's go to
sorry. No, it won't. I was hoping it might say hand, but it doesn't. Let's do that. So what we're going to automate is just the loop length. And this is where you've got to get sort of, do we want it to start fast and get slower like this? Even faster.
Let's go to Wonderland.
All right, let's get that little tucked in there. Faster, let's try faster.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Cool. I like that. You could go on forever with this. So let's play from here to there.
Take my hand, take my hand.
Oh, let's have it going slow, then fast, and then slow.
Take my hand.
But let's see what works with this stab, right? This is important. So if I go here, let's play the stab.
Let's go to.
Okay, it's quite inaudible. That stab is so intense that it really doesn't. You can't really hear it that much. It needs to be mixed a little better. This, but there we go. Let's have it starting faster then, and then just getting.
Let's go to.
Cool. So it's my hand loop. Okay. Make sure you name your tracks. It's part of the vocals. Make sure you color it the same color. Boom, like that. Make sure you hit the assign tracks color to clips. There we go. That's that. Okay. So let's take a listen. So we're going to go from here to there to, we're going to play a little bit of the groove, and we're going to play, yeah, so this is soloed at the minute. Take that off. Filtering. Oops, wrong one. Filtering down the drums. Cool. So that's sort of the idea of that. Now you'll notice there's no extra sounds. There's a couple of things to look at here, what I've used on the drop. Let's focus on the drop. Okay. So you've noticed there's no crashes, there's no whooshes, there's no reverse sounds, there's none of that stuff. Okay. If nothing to stop you putting that in, of course. But I actually think tracks are a little bit more. Oh yeah, so you could duck it. Yeah, I think it might get a little bit confused and sort of, yeah, because you want to hear the hand vocal a little bit more. You could try that. That's an option. So yeah, we've got a side chain there. Let's put another side chain on it. Let's try it. Love it. Side chain that. We're going to use the side chain of the hand vocal, hand loop 2. Let's create hand loop 2. Let's go back to the wash sound. Second side chain from hand loop 2. Hand loop 2, and then we would set it so the ratio would be kind of like, let's have it at 10, fast attack, and then we'll set the threshold to turn down the stab when the vocal hits. Yeah, let's try it. That's cool, because you're making the sort of hand loop a little bit more audible. Nice suggestion, I like it. So yeah, essentially we're turning down the wash sound when the hand loop is playing, and we can hear the hand loop a bit more. Another thing you could try is just by automating the volume of the stab in the break so it doesn't get too crazy. And we could use something like utility, which is a handy little plugin. Sorry, excuse my pun. Over here, utility can be utilized to bring down the volume of this stab while it's playing in the break, so we can automate the gain. All right, let's add that. So the gain will automate up until it comes in. Let's bring it down by 2 dB maybe. You can actually enter, if I right click there, you can go edit value and go -2, right? So it's a bit quieter there. Cool, yeah, that's a bit better. Make it a little bit more audible. That's cool. Let me name this. This would be wash stab 2. Okay, so that you could go on forever. It's a tweaking paradise, as I say. You just keep going and going until you're really happy with it. And then the final thing I just really want to look at here is sort of what would we put in a drop? You know, what could we emphasize the first hit with? You know, the obvious things such as crashes. We could use a crash. Let's go over here and find some samples. Let's go to effects. We could just use simple 909 crashes. It's been done. You know, everybody uses a crash. It's like, I know it's something simple, but yeah, let's just throw it in. Let's try it. Does it work? To me, it sounds out of place.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Just comes from nowhere, you know. You could do a little reverse thing like that.
Let's go to Wonderland.
Which is kind of cool. I personally prefer not to use them because it's been done. So this is why I've used something like this. I've called it Effects to Scream. And what is it? Let's take a look. Without any of this stuff on here, what does it do? Let's take a listen. It's that. Right? I literally searched for Scream in my Ableton bunch of million samples that comes with Ableton, literally, and look, it just comes up. What's that? Ooh. Yeah, that kind of thing. That would actually be really good as well. Let's replace it. I'll keep my automation. So, what's that one? Well, that's cool. That's cool. And the reason why it's cool is because when we add this reverb, yeah. What is this? Supermassive. I don't know if anybody of you guys have seen this plugin. It's free and it's amazing because you can do crazy things like that. Just indefinite reverb tails. Love that. But then it sounds a bit weird in the track because it's just going to, again, sort of sit on top. Let's bring it up in volume so we can really hear it. So we want to sidechain it. There's the sidechain. Let's make it louder. All right. What a great sound. And then what I've done as well, because I want this sound to be not sidechained to start with, so I can automate the on and off of the sidechain. Let's look at that. I'll move that back a little bit. So it only comes on when the scream is finished. These are just little detail things, but it's like that. So it's going to sound like this on its own. Scream first, sidechain second. Cool. Now, while I'm listening to this is giving me, listen to that sound, that tail of that sound. Let's resample it. So I can create a new track here, right? I'm going to call this resample. And I'm going to set it to EFX to Scream. Let's go. It can either have, let's have it as resampling, but you've got to make sure that you solo what you want to sample. And I'm going to hit record. Will it do it? Come on. Or do I need an input? Let's take a sample of it. Let's do it without the sidechain. Let's redo it. Take that off. Let's get rid of the sidechain altogether, just for now. So sidechain on off. I'll keep it off for a bit. Let's do that. Let's re-record it. So there we go. Re-record. Awesome. Look out for the sounds like this because they're super useful to use in tracks. You can use these as like pads almost. And because it sounds quite intense, these are good to like use as build-ups as well, right? Let's capture the whole thing. Then create a new track underneath, and then we can pop that on here like so. Let's just put it over here, and we can use it. So let's use it as a build-up sound that's going to go into the breakdown. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to loop a section of it. So let's loop the like a section there, between there and there maybe. Command L and it loops. Yeah. See what I mean about an intense sound? And then we can use this sound to then, if I take this, we can sidechain it. Let's just steal the sidechain from this, add it to this, drop it on there like that. Is that going to be playing? Let me automate the on-off like that. Okay. In fact, I'll just get rid of the automation, clear all automation. So it should just be pumping. Brilliant. And then we can use a filter. Just the Ableton filter will do. Just to create, there we go, auto filter. And we can filter it in. Start it from there. That's our start point. And then it can go up to there like that. And then it can filter back out. Let's do that. Over that period there, so it can go back down. So this is just like something you can use to build into the break and then filter away. Filter it out. You could even let it go all the way up to this point here and then maybe filter it back up again a little bit.
Let's go to Wonderland.
So what I've done there is I've created a sound which works in the track, but then I've used it again as a loop, which then relates to that sound. So it becomes part of the track. That becomes a motif of the track. It's like, rather than just adding more and more, we're using what we've got to create something else from it. Okay, so let's stop here because we could go on all day, and we haven't got all day. Any questions, guys? Yep.
Okay, is this working? Yeah. Even if there's only one other FL Studio user here, but there is an equivalent for effect chains. It's called FL Studio Patcher. So if you want to build complex chains like that, you can use that one.
Awesome. Yeah. FL Studio, I know, is amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very happy with that.
Yeah. Have you ever bothered with Ableton at all?
Again?
Have you used Ableton live?
No, not sadly. I've switched to Logic now, but I know that from FL Studio back in the days.
Logic. How do you find Logic?
A bit better oriented for smaller screens when you work on the go, because FL Studio is great technically. It mimics analog gear a lot more than many other DAWs, but its window management is hard at times.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Good luck with Logic.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody? Yep. Guy behind, if you want to.
Do you use the bass line exactly in the exact bass line of your track in the breakdown, or you take another bass line, or you bass line your filter up, cut filter from the down to the up?
Yes. Yeah. Shall I show you how it works?
Yeah. That part was for me a little bit fast. Maybe you can.
So I've just put a filter on here. I've used a longer piece of bass line as well. It's like a bar of bass, so it sounds a little different. It's like a bit more bass there. And then on here, we've got a filter. I've got the second filter is the high pass filter, which is automated. So if we look at the frequency there, look, I'm kind of slowly taking away the bass there. And then boom, when it drops there, the bass is back in. Yeah. So we're using a high pass filter to do it. And Honestly, this way of working, you can just leave everything in, just filter it away. Don't even take it out of the arrangement, leave it in, filter it out, drop it in. It's easy. Cool. Does that help? Yeah, cool. Anybody else?
My question is about the hi-hats, because when I apply some hi-hats to my tracks, they always sound a bit muddy, and when I hear these professional tracks, they sound so bright and so good, so rich, But I didn't figure out so far how that works, Do you have some tips?
Let me show you. There's the ultimate tip here. Let's have a look at this one. Where is it? Can you see this lane of hi-hats? It's taken from a track. It's sampled straight out of the style of track that I'm working on. I've found a few tracks in that style, and I've literally gone, let's take it out of here. And there's the hat. I've taken it out. You can even hear the click because I've been lazy. Look, and that's straight from a track. It's even got the bass in it still. So that's sampled, right? That's a great way to do it. And then that gives you the sound. And then you can add another layer. That's just a loop from a Mark Knight sample pack. And then I've got my own hi-hat doing this just on top of that. Simple sort of looping thing. So it's like 3 or 4 layers, and then, yeah. So it's kind of start with a sample, add more, mix it in.
So layering is the key.
Yeah, that's it. Layering, stealing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. You said there are different kinds of filters, like a filter that emulates the filter from the Korg or something from an old synthesizer. What's the difference between these filters?
Right, absolutely. So the Korg MS-20 filter, have you ever seen an MS-20? It's a little black thing that sort of sits there like that. It's an old, from 1973, right? And when they design these filters, they kind of use different circuitry, and it's just the way that they design them. It makes them sound different. And the MS-20 has got this famous filter that just sounds gnarly and really weird. So they've modeled it, and they've gone and sort of copied the sound of that. So it sounds slightly different to the original Ableton filter, okay? And then you also get, when you look at the filter, let me just show you here, when you open up the, where is it? Filter. I can't see it. There it is, look. So if I change it from clean, look, that one, if you change it to MS2, you get the drive function. And the drive function, again, emulates the circuit of that type of synth. It just sounds different, that's all.
Thank you.
Okay. There's some guys at the front. You want to pass the mic forward?
Actually, I was just going to ask about the bass sample that you used. How's that in terms of clearing it? Is there any issues? Is that snippet enough to use it and publish it? Or is that more a SoundCloud and teaching kind of version?
What sample? I don't know what you're talking about.
Or the bass loop that you used.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's debatable, right? Whether or not, I think using it like this, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. Just looping like that. I don't think anybody could tell what that is. But if you use it like this, like I do in the breakdown, or wherever it is. Oh, have I erased it? Let me go back. Undo. It disappeared. Where did it go? Did I erase it? Anyway, let me pull it out there. So chic, everybody dance. Using it like this, which is more of the sample. Where have you gone to, bassline? Let's have a look, play it there. Like that. You could probably tell what it is. You reckon you don't think?
I think in the tech house world, the way that's being released, my honest opinion would be that.
Yeah. So you can get away with it.
There's never a perfect line. There's never a black and white line with song.
Yeah,
You take risks.
yeah, yeah. It's up to you. Do you want to take the risk? Exactly. That's what I say.
Hi. So my question is about reverbs. So I've sort of heard from like a number of producers it's generally best to use 3 reverbs max in a project just for sort of mixing purposes and to make it, you know, fit in the same space. So I was just wondering like your approach to that, because I noticed there's like quite a few different reverbs on different tracks.
Yeah.
So just wondering your opinion on that. Do you generally use buses? Do you generally just put them on individual tracks?
Yeah.
Like how do you go about that?
Yeah, well, I think the reverbs we've used in this are like more kind of effect type reverbs, aren't they? For using them for moments. But general reverbs, for instance, I use one called a drum verb, which is here, look, and that's a send effect. And the idea with the drum verb is it's a very short reverb that emulates the sound of a room, and then every single drum sound gets sent to that, and it makes it sound like though all the drums are in the same room. If you were to use lots of different reverbs, it would make everything sound like it's in different spaces. You don't want that. You want it to sound like there's a drummer in a room playing in a space, and it makes everything sound together. Same with vocals. Maybe you wouldn't have lots of different reverbs on vocals. You might share a reverb for all of your vocals, and you might use that same reverb for everything else. So it makes it sound like it's recorded in one space rather than, lots of different places, which could be confusing to the ear. So, but it's okay to use as many reverbs as you want to, especially when it comes to like the big build-up things like that. So, all right, cool. Or anybody else? Was somebody out, right?
That's a good time to wrap it up, I think, before the next one. Thank you, Dean.